So what do you believe about life? I know that's an ambiguous question, but what do you believe about life and the things that you are going through? Is there a reason? Is there somebody doing these things to you on purpose? What is your belief about how that can benefit you in the future, like the future you? I think that's important for perspective, because one thing that we tend to get caught up in is that what we're going through feels like forever. Have you ever been in that place where you're in a tough time, what I call the gray zone, and you feel like this thing is never going to end? As a matter of fact, every day is going to be the same, because no matter what you touch, it seems to turn to ash instead of gold. Have you ever found yourself in a place like that? Have you ever found yourself in a place where you start to get discouraged and you start to lose hope? Because I've heard often lately that hope is not a strategy. I categorically disagree with that. It's part of a great strategy if you want to be successful. But what do you do? How do you get the mindset? How do you reshape or refocus or gain better perspective on what it is that you're going through without losing heart? How do you get up the next day when it feels like Groundhog Day and keep on going? Guys, these are not really rhetorical questions, even though this program is not live and you can't enter it in the chat, but you can send it via email to Quincy at mvsmpodcast.com. I think it's very important. I believe it's very important. I know it's important that we talk about this. I did not want to prepare a script for this show or an opening monologue. I want to speak to you from my heart because I'm actually going through that scenario now. And I've been through that scenario in the past. So I want you to come on this journey with me. We will talk about things for a few minutes, and then I'm going to charge you to email me so that we can talk about it. But I want to give you my heart on what that looks like, give you some encouragement, and help you take the next step forward. My name is Quincy Moran. This is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. It is I, your humble servant, Quincy Moran, a.k.a. the Q-Dog, a.k.a. in some circles, the Q-Diggity Dog. So let's get down to it. What are we talking about here? I want to pull you right in on this. Right now, I find myself in a place called the gray area. And the gray area is one of those places where it feels like it's harder to get up and to attack the day. It feels like it's harder to start my day with prayer because it's not necessarily that buzzing connection that a lot of times it is, although God's presence is still faithful. Feels like whatever I touch in my professional life, it's not turning into gold like it has in the past. My relationships, a little bit of heartburn there. Things are a challenge when it comes to communicating. My health journey, I've taken a few steps backwards, I should say. I planned on it, but I've still taken some steps back. And now at 48 years old, the rebound is not as quick. Finances, it's a struggle. We're just, on the struggle bus here with what's going on in life at this particular time in life. And then autism, by golly, thank you, Jesus, that we are getting some normalcy now after months of very difficult times with both of our kids. My son is starting to sort of balance out. He's really, really becoming the best he's ever been, in my opinion. But our daughter is just very, very challenging right now. And with all the prayers and all the research and the various medications that we've tried that have not worked, that have actually made things worse, you get to this point where you start to just, I don't want to say get weary, but each step sometimes feels a little bit more difficult. Matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone this evening, and we were talking about how do you get through these times when you burn yourself out? Because if you're a high performer, or you're somebody who wants to do more than mediocrity, like you want to serve outside of yourself, you do your typical day to day, but you want to give above and beyond that. If you're driven, you can come to the point where you get towards what's called burnout. As a matter of fact, let me say this, I don't have a clinical trial or a scientific study. Many of us, I think, are working on that burnout level. It's a different burnout than what our parents and their parents faced. In many cases, I would have to believe, just right off the cuff. But I'm telling you that the first thing I want to encourage you with, let me start here, that whatever you're going through is temporary. It is temporary. And I say that because it tends to feel like it is forever. You know, it's that thing from the Game of Thrones where they're constantly talking about when the show begins. It's like, winter's coming. It's like, yeah, but we've been in this season for such a long time. And for them, I think it was a great season because it wasn't the long winter. But there are, and I've actually heard just thinking about this right now, I've heard Ed Milet even speak about the various seasons in life, and the difficulties can be winter. So how do you get through it? What are the things that you do so that you don't slip back into the man that you used to be, so that you don't lose heart and get up, so that your hope isn't like totally deferred and you walk around hopeless? Because what can happen with that is it can affect your attitude, and it really can get in the way, and you can start to sort of feel toxic. So as we were talking about this evening, my friend and I, you know, I was very transparent with him, and I'm going to be very transparent with you. There are times, if I just talk about, and look, I'm not here for pity. What I'm actually doing is just giving you an example, like we do in this podcast for Journey, in this Journey podcast, I should say, so that you can relate. Maybe this is relatable in your life somehow. But autism for a while has been very, very difficult, very loud, very aggressive. It's been extremely challenging. And challenging is an understatement, if I should say that. Now, if you followed the podcast for a long time, you know that, there's been times in my life. There was a time in particular where I just lost hope. I was completely hopeless. And I don't know if that means I was depressed or what, but I was just hopeless. And the Holy Spirit helped me regain hope. Matter of fact, it came back better than it had ever been, stronger than it had ever been. And I'm so thankful for that experience because it helped teach me what is possible. So now, like, autism feels like it is more relentless than I can be. And I'm somebody who is very relentless. I'm headstrong, and I will keep moving in a particular direction, even if I'm discouraged. But it's gotten me concerned lately because it feels so helpless that you cannot help your children get to a place where they can be calm, relax, and sleep. And like everything seems to be full of tension. And it's hours and hours of what I would say is frantic and sort of chaos. And there's long periods of time where, our daughter doesn't sleep. I know this is a peek behind the curtain, maybe deeper than we've had in a while, but it's important for me to tell you that these situations, as they go on, I know it's not going to last forever, I hope, and it's a season. But what if you are in a season that's lasted 2 or 3 years? How do you find a place within yourself to keep moving on and not slip into utter depression, not slip into a place where there's no F words given? Because I've heard that phrase before. And that's a dangerous place. For me, here's what happens for me. And God is so gracious. If you're new to this show, I am a Christian. Living in America, I'm a Christian. My faith is in Jesus Christ, and he has done so much to transform my life. And one of those places where he has transformed my life is giving me the ability to generate hope. How does that happen? Well, for me, I sort of go into a place of prayer, but I also go into a place of analyzing to find places that may be able to change a little bit so that a glimmer of hope can come about. And when it does, it helps to provide me energy. It helps to provide me a spark of energy that will help me keep moving forward. Now, there have been times where it's like pain is absolutely relentless and there feels like there's no hope, where constant failure feels like it's relentless and there is no hope. And I'm talking about, maybe you took that as life in general. I'm talking about with autism. I can tell you this too, that at a certain point, that God has been so gracious to give me dreams a couple of times. I don't know where you stand on it. I just simply know this, that at a very rough time with my son and I, God was gracious enough to give me a dream to reveal his innocence. And this was during a time that was absolutely wretched between him and I as he was growing up and getting into that adolescence era. And look, this is crazy. He, at 5 years old, I told him he couldn't move to another state, and he held that against me, I think, for 10 years or more. And in every single argument, it came up. Fortunately, we sort of moved past that, probably almost all the way, because I haven't heard it maybe in a couple years. So maybe we're past that part. But he would say some very hurtful things to me. And there's the caveat, yeah, but he's special needs, or he's disabled, or he's autistic. So you shouldn't let it bother you. But there's a place where the words that your kids use, whether they have a disability or not, they can tell you if they like things. They can tell you if they don't like things. And then they can say things like my son has. It's really broken me. It's hurt me deeply. And I've worked through resolving that. And there was some time in there where I was just very, very frustrated. I was overwhelmed. I was frustrated. And we had gone to bed one night, and then God had given me a dream where it was like, through this dream, he just revealed the utter innocence in my son's heart. And it really set me free. And not only did he do that once, he gave me that dream twice. And there's been a couple times where I've actually had like real conversations with my son, and he's poured his heart out to me at how heartbroken he truly is about where he is in his life. One of the times, I believe he was about maybe 14, 15, 16, right around in there. Or it might have been right after he graduated high school from the Autism Academy. And he went into great detail, and he was sobbing, and it caused me to sob. I was so sad because I felt so helpless that I could not help him with these things that he wants in his life. And so, time had gone on, and there was this time in my life where I told you earlier that like hope was gone. And then God reinvigorated me with hope. And how did he do that? Because the Holy Spirit encouraged me to be okay with asking people for help, people that I trust. And asking people each time they would ask me before, I didn't want to be a burden on people. So I would not like press forward to ask, or I wouldn't, if they were like, thank you for helping me, what can I do to help you? No, everything's good. So this simple practice came into effect, which was pray that hope would rise in the Moran household. And people started to believe with me. And then my hope turned around, and I became the most hopeful I had been in my life. So, connecting with me spiritually, the Lord blessed me, and the people that I love and support me prayed, and hope rose in my life. The next piece of that is those dreams that revealed to me my son's innocence. They were beautiful. Matter of fact, they made me feel honored that he was in my care, and it completely changed my perspective. It helped me through a very difficult time. Now, one of the last things I'll tell you about this subject, I presume, that helps me so much is when my perspective changes. And that's what I'm going to encourage you with. This is like a 3-part approach that I didn't plan on talking about, but I now that it's come about, I just want to share it with you because it goes part and parcel to what it is we're talking about tonight on how do you pull yourself up when things are going so difficult. The next thing is perspective. God has given me tremendous perspective. It could be that when we're going through these hard times and I start to get really frustrated, it could be coincidence or happenstance that these stories come along through my path. And one of the stories is incredibly impactful. And it goes something like this. It's I don't remember the full detail, but I'll give you the high level view. These parents, have an autistic child, nonverbal, very difficult to communicate with. And they talked about their struggle with not ever hearing the voice of their child. Or I think at one point, this child ended up speaking like one word. And it changed their life. Like it was one of the most incredible things that had ever happened to them. And I had to take a step back and go, wow, no matter the amount of adversity that we have with autism, I can say this with an open heart and say both of my kids can express that they love me, and they have told me they love me with their own voice on their own without being coerced. They will seek me out and they will tell me, I love you. And I didn't realize that I was taking that for granted because I was caught up in the moment of what I was going through. Does that make what I was going through any less? No. But it shifted me back to a place of gratitude for the good things that I do have. The things that I do have that I can latch on to that gives me strength to move forward for another day. And God has been faithful to give me those experiences multiple times because we're now going. This is my son's getting ready to be 25, and he was diagnosed, I think, 13 years ago. And my daughters were diagnosed before that. So how do you reshape the moment of what you're going through in order to give yourself strength to carry on, in order to build hope within yourself to carry on? Here's what I want to tell you. I believe that life offers us opportunity. I heard from Ed Milet again that in every 10 years, you're not even physically the same person because everything in your body has renewed, from your bones to your epidermis. Everything has renewed. So now you're technically a new body of cells. And so you are a new version of yourself physically. I took some time to think about that and to really say, man, number one, I never heard that. Number two, if my physical being can transform in that way, I believe that my internal being can transform the same. And so I started taking on a new perspective during that time, almost a decade ago, where I realized, looking back, and as a matter of fact, what I'm about to tell you came to absolute fruition. Actually, it was settled in me about 4 years ago when I was helping somebody very, very close to me with their marriage. And I thought about the immense amount of struggle that we had been through and what we had done in our relationship in order to overcome the adversity that we had been through with our children, with our relationship in general, and how we had come so far by being intentional and growing with one another. And the moment I was there helping this person that was very close to me, it settled in on me to say, all the experiences that you have been through have led to this moment. So it's imperative that you extract any lessons out of the moments you are going through as you move along, and understand that whatever you're going through now, today, this moment you're hearing this, the you in 7 days needs you to push forward. The you in 7 days needs you to learn these lessons to the best of your ability. And I go on further to say, hey, the you 30 days from now needs you to learn these lessons. The you 6 months from now is counting on you to make the best decision possible when you fail, to get up and to keep moving forward. The man 1 year from now, the you 1 year from now is counting on you to make the right decision, do your best, and execute every day with excellence, to live intentionally, and to learn these lessons that you are walking through using the mindset that this is not happening to you, but it's actually happening for you. The cause, we can get down to that because some things are out of our control. Some things we screw up on our own because we make bad choices and we get in bad cycles and we develop bad habits. And then I got to thinking when I was working through that, well, heck, if me 10 years from now is going to be a brand new man, whatever I'm going through right now, the me 10 years from now is counting on me to learn every lesson, to get stronger every day, and to learn how to continue to move forward and expand my horizon because I want to walk in God's good and perfect will. So the me 10 years in the future is looking back and going, Q, I know it's tough, but I need you to learn these lessons because it's preparing you to become the man God has you to be. And I've seen that over and over and over again in my personal life, with my wife and my children, in my passion projects life right here with this podcast and the men and women that we've helped with their relationships, in my professional life where there's been plenty of failure that I've had the time to think about and to grow through and to reconcile and to move forward until the guy that stands before you or sits before you today can say, yes, I have needed these lessons. Some I have failed in, but I have gotten up and I have gone forward. If you're going to fall forward. And so let's keep making progress. Let's learn all that we can. Let's live this life in such a way that it honors God and appreciation for having the gift of life every day, because not everybody got to wake up this morning. Not everyone is going to wake up tomorrow. So each day you're on this earth, what if you live it in such a way to honor the gift of life you have? What if you look at life and how it provides you opportunities, whether it is the good times or it's through adversity? What if you look at this in such a way that says, I can shift my perspective when I pull the gratitude out of the moment and I don't focus on the things that are tearing me down. Does it mean they're not a reality? Of course not. Does it mean you don't have to endure them? Absolutely, you do. Is it a lot of pressure on you to think about the guy from me tomorrow needs the lessons of today, or me 10 years from now needs me to do a great job and get this done? Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. But that pressure is a privilege because this life is temporary. And right now, whatever you're going through is a season. It's not going to last forever. So I need you to embrace these mindsets, commit to looking at life as if it's offering you opportunity. Maybe it's an argument with your wife. Okay, we all have those. Well, how can this be an opportunity for you to learn how to communicate more effectively, or how to understand where your wife is coming from more effectively? How can you help these situations in your life? And look, we're going through some rough situations in my family in general. Thank God. I thought about this the other day with what we're going through. I said, thank God Jeannie and I have put the work in so that we have that stability in our relationship to rely upon, because we have built that. It doesn't mean we never have any problems, but thank God we've put the work in so that as we're going through these very, very difficult times, we have one another, we can trust one another, and we can move through this thing together. Let me start to wrap this up by saying this, what I'm telling you, is testimonial. Why does that even matter, Q dog? I just heard somebody talk about the other day. When somebody talked about themselves in the third person, it was very off-putting. I do that often, so I must be off-putting some people, which I truly am. But why does it matter that this is testimony, Quincy? Why does it matter? I hear people talk about testimonies in church. Why do they matter, Quincy? This is the reason that they matter. And it's the most powerful reason that I can give you, because a testimony comes from your footsteps walking down the path. It's not something you heard, which something you heard in a story you can retell is very powerful. But if you're talking to someone and they have actually walked through the fire, they can show you the scars. And they can also show you that they are still here moving forward. That means that if you put yourself in the mindset, prepare to do the work, shift your perspective, and live every day in honor of God, because it's a gift for you, that you can walk your own path, and it's possible for you to be an overcomer. It's possible for you to embrace the suck. It's possible for you to overcome these difficulties, not just survive them, but to find a way to grow through them. And when you get on the other side of them, finalize the lessons that you've walked through. What you are going through is temporary. Ultimately, everything on this earth is seasonality. The seasons will come and go. Some seasons last longer than others. Trust me, that's not a cliche. That is experience speaking from me to you. Some seasons might last for years. And that's my point of charging you to live each day and to look and pull the gratitude out where you can. Just like I'm telling you that through some of the toughest times through autism, I've had my perspective adjusted when these stories come along with parents losing their children, parents that never hear their kids talk, parents that go through all kinds of adversity. But how can I look at my situation and pull the gratitude from it? My kids can tell me they love me. From time to time, they will hug me. Almost every night, actually, if I'm around when my daughter's going to bed, she will hug me and kiss me on the cheek. She may scream at me after she's done, but for the most part, she will express her love towards me. And that is overwhelming when you think about it. That another human being, especially one that is extremely autistic, can take a moment out of whatever chaos is going on inside of her body and mind and extend to me love and affection, even if it's just for a moment. So how does this line up with where you are? I do not know what you're going through. What I do know is that it's possible to make this season more positive than you think it is. I don't mean in the positive thinking sense. I mean more positive for you in the long term of who you are becoming. I'm learning some lessons as we speak right now. Not willing to talk about them out loud right now. Maybe in due time I will. But I'm learning some lessons that are very challenging through the gray part. And for you guys that are people of faith, there's a phrase that I've coined, which is when you don't know what to do, you do what you know. And God is faithful. And listen, he's always going to be there, whether you hear him or you sense him or you don't. If you are a parent, you know that sometimes you must allow your children to suffer a little bit. You don't have to cause your children to suffer. They can make up ways to do it on their own. How do I know? Because I used to be one. But I assure you that as my kids are going through these difficult times, whether they caused it or not, I'm there to support them. And it's very important to me to be a guiding force along with them. And they can come to me when they are in need of advice, when they are in need of comfort, or they're just in need of being in the presence of someone who loves them, whether there can be help or not, whether it's time for that help to be administered or not, until the lesson is complete. The last thing I'm going to ask you is, how addicted are you to your telephone? How much time are you spending on your telephone doom scrolling Facebook, or doom scrolling Twitter or X, or doom scrolling TikTok? How much of your life is being consumed by this device rather than you being a human again? How much time is this device taking away from things that you could be doing that would make you better? Presumably, right now, you're listening to this podcast or watching it on your telephone. Although there have been a significant number of downloads on desktop computers lately, which is very interesting to me. I like to listen to podcasts when I'm at the gym, when I'm driving. Maybe you're doing the same. But that's the last thing I want to talk to you about is how much time is your phone, your smart device, stealing from you? How much time are you surrendering to this telephone? Do you sit in a room and do you look around and do you see everybody's head turned down at their phone? I understand sometimes that has to be me because my work requires my telephone sometimes. But how much time are you taking to sit and to meditate just for a few minutes? To see if you can quiet your mind, to see if you can slow yourself down, that you don't have to constantly be entertained. How much of that discipline are you putting in your life, or are you merely consuming news and gossip and the latest crap on TikTok, etc., And is your mind being filled with that? Or how much are you investing in people like Jim Rohn or Andy Frisella or Ed Milet or Brandon Burchard or even this podcast, which I thank you for listening to? How much of that goodness are you putting in there? Maybe messages from your church, maybe messages from my church over at Milestone in Keller, Texas. What are you filling yourself with? Because if you are filling yourself with dirty water, then you cannot expect your system to run clean. You can't avoid all dirty water, okay? There's going to be things. There's just going to be stuff in life, whatever it might be. But how much are you intentionally putting in there on this telephone? How much time is it sucking away from you when you could be doing other things that are more productive? And one of those things that's more productive is to sit quietly and listen to your thoughts and pray and ask God to interact with you. I know we can find all kinds of reasons to justify being on our telephone. But do you have the ability to be present in the moment anymore? Do you have the ability to be like sit with your wife and not have to ask her to repeat things 6 times because you're looking at your phone, or you guys aren't even talking anymore? Or sitting with your kids and everybody's on the phone? Or driving in the car and everybody's not present together, everybody's just on their telephone? That right there can add significant amounts of tension, of anxiety, and hopelessness to you. I'm not saying you don't need to know what's going on in the world. Okay? You need to see what's happening. You need to know. Okay, that's fine. But if you have an iPhone, it will show you your screen time. And I think you should go look at it. And I think you should start to map out. I'm asking you to map out what's going to make me a better me. More time on Facebook or more time investing in making myself a better person so that I can connect with other humans and help them in whatever life they are living. Or I can help my family, or I can grow, or I can spend time with God. I would love to hear what it is you have to say. Listen, some people get very defensive about their telephone and the time they spend on it. If you do a lot of defending that, it's likely you have a problem and it's time to fix it. But these are the questions that Jeannie and I will ask each other as I wrap this up. So me talking to her, how are you, the woman? How's your health? How's your faith? How are you, the wife? How are you, the mother? How are you, the daughter? How are you, the friend? How are you, the professional? I think we do put in there, how are you, the sibling, like sister? She's got a sister. And those are the various aspects of who you are. And I think it's important that you start to look at yourself through that purview and start to work on reshaping whatever your perspective is there and begin to help yourself abound and move forward. And what I'm telling you is what helps me. I know we're not wired exactly the same, but we can believe, we can actually relate these items to our life, even if our life isn't exactly the same. So I want to thank you for listening. I think at this point, we're going to have just about 400 episodes for you to go and look through. Some about marriage, some about growing yourself, but all of them are intended to help you change your perspective, give you some practical tools on how to utilize this adversity in life or the good things in life to become the absolute best version that you can become. And if you want true transformation, if you want true connection, I would offer you to put your faith in Jesus Christ. because that's been the most transformative thing of my lifetime in these 48 and a half years. So God bless you. Remember Galatians chapter 6, 9 through 10. That scripture is so apropos. I think it was maybe my scripture for this year, which explains a lot. If you don't know what it is, please go look it up. If you're driving, wait till you're not. Please share this with a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100 guys that you think could use a word of encouragement and some practical tools on how to stand up and work through adversity in life and extract the opportunity out of it. So that is all for today. For more, go check out QuincyMoran.com. All the stuff we're doing there is happening. Family Famous, the book, Becoming Family Famous, is on the way, and I can't wait to bring it to this crowd. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all that you do as you listen to this podcast and you go out and make a difference in other people's lives. I can't wait to hear from you. Quincy at MVSMpodcast.com. What can the Q do to help you? That's it from the Moran Family Studio. My name is Quincy Moran, a.k.a. The Q Dog, and this is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast.